Later, as usual. These are semi-unscheduled live streams. Hey, found your other shoe. Uh, have one of the. Yeah, okay. And have someone help you take your shoes off. Oh, Mariah's out of town, and I'm not doing well. Hold on a second. Hey, can you help her get her shoes off? Yes, sir. All right. I did get dinner done. Okay, so those of you who are watching later, this is one of our semi-unscheduled live streams. Usually someone's here by now. So while I wait for people to get here, let me get the chat pulled up. We've got a lot to talk about this evening. Someone's here. Hello. Our topic this conversation is going to be the FBI is a standing army and should be disbanded on constitutional grounds. Discuss amongst yourself for just a second. Don't listen to that. Sorry, I think we got 6 people here. I apologize. Just getting the chat up, letting people get here while I get the chat going. One day I'm going to schedule these, get these scheduled for a set time, and we'll be able to be professional about this damn thing. And maybe at some point I could even start growing this channel if I treated it like it was a real thing instead of a vanity project.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds. All right, Big Nate is here. Isaac is here. Gandalf is here. Commentator is here. He's just a commentator. Oh, we already lost somebody. Okay, here we go. So, now, we don't have any information on this. Isaac just texted me a little while ago that something's going on with Alex Jones. I did a quick search on it a minute ago to try to see what I could find, and I didn't really find anything. Some congressman saying that he should sue the FBI. But I say no. We should disband the FBI. Now, there are a number of reasons why we should disband the FBI. And by the way, we all owe, hey, Adam, we all owe the civil rights movement an apology. The civil rights movement has been telling us for decades that, hey, Mark, that the FBI was a corrupt organization. And we all poo-pooed them. We're like, oh, please stop. And now we know. And we should have known before, but now we have my poor wife. Well, anyway, she's out of town. If we didn't know before, and we should have known, but we all act like we didn't know, the FBI has been corrupt from its inception. It was corrupt when they were the Pinkertons. If those of you who don't know the history of the FBI, it was originally a private detective agency. It's still a private detective agency, by the way. That's never changed. But it was originally officially a private detective agency called the Pinkertons. And they were doing a bunch of freelance work for the federal government before they just brought the whole thing in and made them the FBI. And put J. Edgar Hoover in charge of them. One of the most corrupt individuals, and also a truly a pervert. He was a homosexual and a cross-dresser and the whole 9 yards. And the FBI proceeded to be what it had always been corrupt, because why wouldn't they be corrupt, right? I mean, that's who they were. They were corrupt. Yeah. Their big thing before they half our presidents have been queers. I wasn't aware of that, but I'll be interested to see the sourcing on that. Obama was gay. gay as a blade. Didn't even try to hide it either. I spent a lot of time in bathhouses in Chicago. There's some really interesting conspiracy theories behind Obama, his birth and his upbringing and the whole 9 yards. That the alleged African father wasn't his father at all. I'm sure some of you have heard it. The only thing is that his African half brother, they say, looks a lot like him. Anywho, so back to the FBI. The FBI is a corrupt organization, has been from the get go. Much to our great shame, many of us, including me, cheered when they were oppressing the people we didn't like, when they were going after the commies. We all thought that was hysterical. And let's admit, it's a little funny. It's always fun when commies get their uppance. But we didn't learn, or we're learning the lesson now that 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 what they'll do to your enemies, they'll do to you. And of course, we've seen the incredible corruption aimed at Donald Trump. Just the most blatant. And here's what's really, I mean, I know we're all angry to the point where we're all dangerously angry. I know I am dangerously angry, and I know a number of you are also dangerously angry. The true danger right now is that, hey, ungrateful peasant, they get away with it, and nothing happens, and they just go, oh, we can do whatever we want. Because that's really, that's the lesson they've been taught for their entire existence. The FBI has never been held account for anything in its entire existence. Why wouldn't they think that they're above the law, that they're untouchable? They've gotten away with everything they've ever put their hand to. They've never once been called on the carpet for any of it. Hey, Tim, shalom. Sandy, good evening. So, but let's talk about a different angle on this thing. We all know the FBI is corrupt. But I say they also, even if they weren't corrupt, even if they were an honest, upright, forthright law enforcement agency, which they are not. And by the way, it is past the point where we can say anything about, well, it's the people at the top, the people, the people doing the grunt work are, they're good. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to channel my Steven Crowder again. I've been doing a lot lately. You can't make the argument anymore. If you work for the FBI, you work for a corrupt, oligarchical, tyrannical organization attempting to undermine the freedoms of the American people, or not attempting, undermining the freedoms of the American people and tearing down the system our founding fathers put in place. There is no more fig leaves for the FBI. If you work for the FBI, you're a mercenary working for a rogue organization. And the best I can say for you is that you're just trying to keep your head down and get your pension. But unless you're an active whistleblower, unless you are actively engaged in informing on the criminals at the FBI, you have no excuse. I'm sorry. I know it's hard when you have a good life. Thank you, proud dad of a Marine, and thank you for your son, too, for his service. I appreciate that. So I don't want to hear this bullshit about the good people at the lower echelons. I'm sure there are some conflicted people in the lower echelons. I heard a terrible joke one time, and what made this joke so funny is it was told to me by a German, an East German. He grew up under communism, and those guys are kind of fun. But we were talking about World War II at one point. I didn't start the conversation. I worked with the guy, and I knew him fairly well. we were talking about World War II, and he said, "Yeah, my grandfather died in the concentration camps," and because it just came out of nowhere, He'd started this conversation about World War II, and we were talking about it, and he was talking about it from a German perspective, and he just got real quiet, and he said, "Yeah, my grandfather died in the concentration camps." And so, I mean, what do you say? I was just like, "Oh, I'm so, that was an awful thing. It's just terrible. I'm so sorry that your family," and he kind of looked up, but he got a little smile and said, "Yeah, he fell out of the guard tower." Uh, think about it for a second. It was extremely funny coming from a from a German, although I'm sure a Jew might not think so. But you seeing me sputter and try to catch up and figure out what was going on. It was a pretty funny moment. But the best you can say for yourself if you're an FBI agent right now is that you're in the guard tower. That's all I can say for you. And if your pension is that important to you, if your good cushy government job is that important to you, then you have to understand you're a mercenary. And you're a mercenary on, it is very dark humor. You're a mercenary on the side of humor, on the side of humor, on the side of evil. You are working for the bad guys. The FBI is wearing the black hats. Okay, but let's set that aside for just a minute. Let's assume for 1 second that they're the good guys and they've got the white hats on. Yeah, and they got the shiny pistols. And they rode the white horse. And they're dressed all in gleaming white. These guys look just like Buster Scruggs. They're still unconstitutional. Our founding fathers told us, put it in our Constitution, that we would not have a standing army. And of course, we didn't listen to them, and we have a standing army. And as a Marine, obviously, I'm going to throw a little shade at the Army, no matter what. But we're not supposed to have a standing army. But even if we didn't have a standing army, federal law enforcement, if we brought our founding fathers forward and showed them our system, if we could ever get them to stop beating us long enough to ask them questions. Hey, Lance Corporal Veterans, good to see you, sir. If we could ever get them to not shoot us for a second, and we asked them some questions, and we pointed out to them the FBI and the CIA and the NSA and all this stuff before they shot us for treason, they would tell us that the FBI is a standing army. The whole point of that standing army thing is they did not want the government to have access, the federal government to have access to force and violence. The federal government was supposed to be completely voluntary. There was supposed to be absolutely zero, and I mean zero, coercive power invested in the government. Now, as much as I love me some George Washington, as soon as he got in power, he crapped all over that. And he started working towards a standing army. And we did the Whiskey Rebellion. Sorry, Mark. And all of that. I keep forgetting to turn off notifications when I do this. Those kids know I'm busy and they're out there. It's the little one. She's playing. All right. The FBI is unconstitutional. They should be abolished under the Constitution as a standing army. Because they're a coercive force. They have the ability to apply force and compel obedience. And that is exactly what our founding fathers did not want. Now, look, I've been this person. I have said this. I have said this myself in my lifetime. I am ashamed to admit, back during 9/11, right after 9/11, I was all about some Patriot Act. I was all about empowering law enforcement to go after those evil terrorists. I supported it. It was awful. It was short-sighted. It was myopic. I was wrong. All I listened. I was listening into the radio when the second tower fell, uh, and I got recalled into the Marine Corps right after that. And George Bush on the bus. Soon they will all hear you. I was all in it, rah rah. And I don't. You haven't lived through the moment and have been alive at the time. I'm not excusing it, but it's understandable. People are people. That's all they can be. And when you're under attack, you clump up and you try to defend yourself, and you don't make the the best decisions. And a lot of us, if we got to be honest, fell into it. I fell into it. I virulently supported the Patriot Act. I virulently supported George Bush. All of it, whole 9 yards. Defended Rumsfeld. I'd be honest with you, I still like Rumsfeld. Sorry. Defended Cheney. Got to admit, I still kind of like Cheney a little bit. I know I shouldn't. All of the empirical evidence I have about Cheney is that he was a rhino at best. But I still like him. He was kind of fun. On a personal level, I don't like anything he did now. I don't think. But anyway. All right, Gandalf. I mean, think about it. This was 24 years ago now. Almost 24 years. 24 years in September, famously. Hey, Anarchy Television. Yeah, Anarchy, you should definitely be for the abolition of the FBI. 24 years is a long play. I mean, that's a career. You can retire from the federal government after 20 years. So there's been an entire generation of federal employees. Hey, George Washington. We didn't do any Irish potatoes this year. We did sweet potatoes. We're doing a combined garden with my father-in-law. Shalom, Landon. So I have not been down to check the sweet potatoes since they put them in. Mariah and the boys went down there and did them. So I haven't looked at them yet. I'm sure they're doing pretty good. We've had decent rain, so they should be doing fairly well. But anywho, so the FBI's got to go. Hey, Doug is with us. How about that? Wow. Good evening, Doug. Doug's all the way over there in Hawaii, as you can tell by his name, Maui Doug. He's been one of our longer term subscribers. We haven't seen him live in a long time. Doug, I hope you're feeling well, brother. Yes. Mark, we have to admit we have lost our country and have no means to get it back. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm at with it. There's no way back from this. Because no matter what, this norm has been breached. And now everyone who gets in is going to use it. They're going to go to it. It's going to be a tactic. If we look at I always try to look at the other great empires. Now, Last Corporal Veteran's clearing up for his getting his guard in a little late. You gonna let us tag along on the next deer season? No, Doug had a vicious flu. Sorry to hear that. I'm not a good hunter. I wish I was a good hunter. I could let you tag along on the next time I attempt to hunt, which is probably would actually be some interesting videos. I mean, someone just being honest about it. But back to Mark's point, yeah, I don't see a way back. This is the new norm going forward. Conservative politicians will not be able to go into blue states at all, because anytime you let blue states get a chance now to uh, use their law enforcement apparatus against you, they will. I mean, that's just it. If a blue state will now always use their law enforcement apparatus to punish conservative politicians. I don't know how we're going to have a Republican delegation in New York anymore. If you think that they won't start, because this isn't going to stay at, it's all like, oh, Orange Man bad, he's so bad, we get to we'll violate these norms because Trump is so bad. Forget, no one knows what actual bad thing he did. Remember this. At the base of this indictment against Trump, or this conviction now, I'm not even calling it's not a conviction. That's giving it way too much credit. Acting like this is a real thing. Bullshit. I'm not gonna I'm not going to insult the victims of real crimes by calling this a conviction, but whatever happened, this pronouncement they've done up there, they're wringing their hands about Orange Man. Well, now that the norm has been breached, there won't be Orange Man next time. Next time it'll just be eventually, and this is what liberals always do. Eventually, it will devolve down to the point where they're doing it to each other. It will be liberals destroying liberals with their lawfare. It'll be fun to watch when it gets to that point. But what it means is we've taken another step towards division, and I think Anarchy Television is talking about this right now. Hunter says, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." Let's talk about Convention of States, Mike. The Convention of States scares me, and I'm sure you've heard the reason why. But we'll at least talk about it. But this norm has been breached. They will now legally go after. Hey, Alex Giles, it has been a while, brother. It's good to see you. Actually, I was just thinking about you the other day, Alex. I was blasting off some ammunition. Where was I? Yeah. So the next person who comes along is going to go after their political opponent. Doesn't matter who it is, because now it's. I don't have any faith in the FBI, Alex. You missed the first part where I was talking about how corrupt they were and they have to be abolished. And we have to abolish them because they're corrupt. But even if they weren't corrupt, they're a standing army, and it's our founding fathers warned us about standing armies. And I just got some alert on X from Dinesh D'Souza saying something about astounding announcement from the Secret Service. What is the conviction of states? Gentleman Warrior, he's talking about the Convention of States. There's a provision in the Constitution that the Constitution can be amended by a Convention of States. I know, Alex. Thank you. We are doing well. We're doing very well. And so I think it's if 2/3 of the states call a convention, they can just amend the Constitution willy-nilly. It's very, very, very. It has no. It's completely undefined. It's just that if these states call 2/3 of the states can call a convention of the states, and when they do, they can just change anything and everything while they're there. Remember, our first Constitution came out of a convention that was just supposed to come up with some tax laws. The Constitution came out of a convention that was just supposed to help the Congress raise revenue, because none of the states were paying their tax money to the feds because the federal government didn't have any enforcement mechanisms. I mean, No, I mean we could argue. No, no, that's fine, gentlemen. War. Maybe we could make the argument that we would have been unable to resist the British in the War of 1812. I think that's bullshit. I think we would have been fine. We would have done the same thing we did the previous time. And sure, they would have made some incursions and, we'd have crouched behind some stone walls and done what we did, and they would have run out of steam. But anyhow, not neither here nor there. So if you have a convention of the states, no one knows what comes out of that convention of the states, and I am not confident that they can't rig it. I mean, all of the evidence we have in front of us is that they would be able to rig it. They are masters of manipulation. They are they have zero shame. They're excellent at lying and prevaricating and faking. Okay, the Secret Service said regarding the 34 felony charges, our commitment to protect him remains unchanged. Yeah, that is a cryptic statement, and it could mean nothing or it could mean everything. Yeah, Democrats are riggers, liberals are riggers. They always have been, they always will be. And they believe the ends justifies the means, and they'll just do whatever it is they have to or can or want to achieve those means, and then they'll tell themselves, oh well, the ends justified it all. It was all worth it. Even though we had to kill thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of civilians to accomplish it, we accomplished our ends because their ends are righteous, and so they can do whatever it takes to get to those ends. Pol Pot, nice, Wes. Wes says everything is fine. We are just as strong and free as we were in 1772. Pol Pot was, if you know who Pol Pot was, he was this Cambodian communist dictator who was going to, usher in the workers' paradise, and ended up killing, was it 2/3 or one? An unbelievable number of Cambodians. Yeah, Stalin too. What made Pol Pot, Stalin had a much higher body count, but Pol Pot killed such an unbelievable percentage of his people, or not his people, of the people he was oppressing. He took over Cambodia, ran it. He only ran it for I think 5 years or 6 years. He wasn't in power very long, and in that period of time, managed to kill. I'm pulling this from memory. I think it was 2/3 of Cambodians, or 1/3. Maybe it was 1/3 of Cambodians. He only killed 2 million people, but like it was in a country of 6 million or something like that. Thank you, Mike. Unbelievable what he did. Insane. There was that Algerian guy whose name I can't remember now. Obviously, Stalin. Lenin. Lenin was evil. Lenin was evil. Yeah, the Khmer Rouge was in Cambodia. Okay, 10 Tigers is saying it was approximately a quarter of Cambodia's population. It was, I knew it was a huge amount. I mean, think about it. You killing a quarter of your population. Mao may have killed 100 million Chinese people, but every single one of them was doing it for some bright and glorious future. It was we are advancing forward to the workers' paradise. To a brighter tomorrow. And it was all we were going to make they were going to make any sacrifice to get to the promised land. It's amazing how you know there's nothing new in the world. Everything's always been done before. And yeah, well, it could be 10 Tigers. It could be the same here. I think there's some differences here. The new Green Deal is fun, but it's a total fiction. They can't do it, and they know they can't do it. And the reason they can't do it is there's all sorts of reasons they can't do it. We're at 49 people, and if one of you is about to leave, can I get you just to hang on for a few minutes and let us get to 50? I haven't had 50 people on a live stream in a while, and it would be fun. So if I know I might be boring you, and if you're 53, bam, appreciate you people. Okay, feel free to duck out now. You were kind to me. Let me get to 53. But it's amazing how everyone, the atheist and the humanist and the secularist and all those people, they, oh, we were talking about the Green New Deal. Let's do the Green New Deal first. You know, even if the technology was there to do it, they don't have, they, the environmentalists would refuse to allow the mining to happen to allow us to get the copper and the raw materials they would need to explode the grid. If the Green New Deal is going to happen, the electrical power grid has to literally like triple or quadruple in size. It has to get massive. And mining just has to be cranked up to an insane level. We need so much copper. It no one even really. Hey, Patriot Pops here. How you doing, sir? I should call you. Uh, where was I? Copper. We don't even really know how much copper we need. That's the crazy thing. But they need so much copper to build all the electrical lines, to build all these electrical things they say we're going to have, to build all these, all the, the power generation and run all these wires. If you ever looked at a solar farm, and they'll have these solar farms with just thousands and thousands of solar panels spread over hundreds of acres. Yeah, you're right, DPF. Copper is through the roof right now. I do a little bit of scrapping on the side, nowhere near as much as I would like, but because of my job and what I moved through, I'm able to find small amounts of copper and brass and aluminum. And Battle of Athens, 1942, right in Tennessee. Adam, I am not familiar with that at all. I'll have to look that up. But we need so much copper and silver. Huge amounts of silver has to go into all this stuff, and all these other metals. Nickel, we need nickel by just the literal metric shit ton, and all that stuff has to get mined. But the environmentalists won't approve mines. They will not approve mining. It doesn't matter where. Stay alive, don't die. Hello, nice people who don't know who I really is. Well, tell us who you really are, and then we'll know. It's good to have you with us tonight, though, whoever you are. So it's not doable. There's no such thing as a Green New Deal. It's serfdom. That's all the Green New Deal is. I think Isaac just pointed it out. Walkable cities. All those walkable cities are is serfdom. They tie you right back to the. Here's what made serfs. Sometimes we throw around words a lot. Serfs were tied to the land. They weren't technically slaves. Technically, they weren't slaves, but they were not allowed to leave the place where they were. They were tied to the land. Hey, Nanja Ninja, we'll talk about that in just a second because I think you're probably right. Every police force is a standing army, not just the FBI. We don't talk to that stay alive, don't die guy. So if you live in a 15-minute walkable city and you are not able to afford a car because they've made cars so prohibitively expensive because they've banned gas cars and electric cars can't be had because the raw materials are not allowed to be mined. you can't, you're tied to that spot, and you have to take the job they put within 15 minutes of your walkable city. They have, for all practical purposes, made you a serf. You can only get the job you can get to. Uh, and if you can't move, you can't go get another job. You know, if you're not mobile, you're stuck with whatever they allow you to have. You're a serf. You are tied to your place. As it stands now, you know, most of Americans have access to cars, and you know, if work gets bad where we're at, we can commute an hour and a half, and get a better job. And then if we need to move, you know, we can move to be closer. But you get, well, lots of people who move for better jobs, they get the job first and they commute, and then they end up moving. But if you can't commute, you can't get that better job. And they'll tell us, don't worry, we're going to give you public transportation. It'll be like Europe. Well, bullshit. Bullshit. They're already tightening down on Europe's mobility. You know, all those cheap flights all those Europeans have had all these years all over the place, they're going away. They're restricting them. They're making short flights illegal. They're banning them. You have to take the train. Their train systems are nice. Don't get me wrong. They're not bad, but they're not good enough for what we're talking about. They're still quite limited. And of course, once the cars are gone, and they've wrecked the airline industry, they just start turning off the trains. You know, the trains are controlled by the government. The government owns them and runs them. And if the government doesn't want you traveling, they don't run a line. They shut down the line. They raise the fare on the line. They just cut the available cars in half. Train ride, you comes with free sexual assault. You're a serf. You're tied to the place where you're at, and you are now captive labor. And technically, captive labor isn't the same thing as being a slave, but it's this close. It's this close. And considering the fact that all of our currencies now are worthless paper fiats, they are essentially not paying us anymore either. They are essentially issuing us, our rations. They're just doing it through this worthless paper. I mean, that's not even paper anymore. Now it's just digital. Right, right. MI prepper. What you get a good enough social credit score to travel on a train. You and I won't be traveling on a train because our social credit scores won't be good enough. Because we're not politically reliable. And politically reliable people now can be convicted of 34 felonies for simply being politically unreliable. That's what just happened up there. That's what the FBI just did. And don't tell me, oh, it was the state court. Biden sent one of his people, left his administration, went down there, got a job with Alvin Bragg, and it was an actual member of the Biden administration down there doing this stuff. Federal Bureau of Investigators. You've all heard this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but let's just take a moment. Let's just take a moment and glory in the fact. Let's revel in the memory of the nefarious, the diabolical, the inhumane plot to kidnap the poor, helpless governor of the great state of Michigan. They were going to kidnap that pretty little girl. There were 14 of them. It was a plot. It was a cabal. It was a conspiracy. It was a cell. It was a terrorist cell. And of the 14 people involved, 12 of them were informants. 12 of them worked with the FBI. There were two. There were 2 people involved in this 14-man plot that were not government informants. Uno, dos. What do we say? what what do we say? Is there literally so little crime that the FBI has to go fake crimes in order to justify that? Hey, look, if they were that good, if they had done their job so well that there was no crime, that they had to fake crimes in order to justify their jobs, if that were true, I'm okay with that. Keep your job. If you have been so good at eliminating crime that there's no crimes for you to go after and you fake crime in order to justify your job, I'm okay with that. Well done. Well done, sir. You have eliminated crime, you have kept us safe, you have earned your paycheck, and I am okay with you helping me see that. But that is not the case. Okay, 100,000 Americans died last year from fentanyl overdoses. But but we had 12. Now this wasn't last year, obviously, but that number would have been close to the same year of that, alleged plot to kidnap that poor little Michigander girl. Uh, could we not have used 12 informants inside the fentanyl trade? Was that the best use of those law enforcement assets? Was to root out those two hillbillies up north? It insults me that there's hillbillies up north. I feel like that should just be a southern thing. But those them boys was hill. Look at Wes F dropping the S. We're gonna have to change your name from Wes S to Wes F. He dropped an F bomb. Uh, but these were just two hillbillies who, you know, these 12 government agents come down there and start paying them a little bit of attention and drinking some beer together and talking a little sedition, and they were just enjoying the social interaction. That's all that was. That was just two hillbillies who they're talking shit with their buddies, who they thought were their buddies. Turns out their buddies were all FBI informants. These jackasses need to pick better friends. But it took 12 FBI agents to root out two beer drinking hillbillies from the backwoods of Michigan who were willing to talk about some pretty extreme stuff. Hell, I could have given them 10 names, and all they had done was come and asked. Oh yeah, I know some hillbillies that say some awful stuff. Oh, terrible stuff. Hell, I'm one of them. You don't need 12 agents for that. Just a total, total fucking useless waste of and silly, just silliness. We had it happen here local. I actually knew one of the guys. This was about 20 years ago now, maybe, yeah, about 20 years ago. Uh, Good old boy, nothing wrong with him. Really, I don't know if y'all remember back in the day when there was this big controversy in Georgia about the state flag. Our state flag had St. Andrew's cross on it, popularly known as Confederate battle flag. It was never the Confederate battle flag, but whatever. No point trying to educate the ignorant. Uh, and our state flag had the Confederate battle flag on it, St. Andrew's cross, uh, and they wanted to change it. Now, I actually don't have any problem with St. Andrew's cross. It actually did need to come off of our state flag, though, because it was only put on our state flag in 1956 in response to the civil rights movement. So, whatever you want to say, whatever was on that flag needed to come down because it wasn't about the Civil War. It wasn't about heritage. It wasn't about history. It was just the thumb in the eye of the civil rights movement, which, the civil rights movement went too far. They got a lot of things wrong, but their basic claim was right. You know, strip away all the foolishness, and at the bottom of it there were people who were not being allowed their due rights as citizens. So fair enough, the state flag needed to change, not because of the Confederate battle flag, but just because it was adopted in 1956 in a backlash to the civil rights movement. Well, anyway, this old boy, he got radicalized by that moment, and he really, he was protesting the governor, and there were all these flag protests and rallies, and he was real involved with it. He was an organizer, and I think was he in the VFW or was he in the American Legion? I can't remember. He was in one of the veterans organizations. He's a vet, and and coming out of that, he came out of that movement with a real tight knit group of friends who were very engaged and switched on and very involved in right wing stuff. And they were meeting together and they were talking and they got infiltrated. They got infiltrated and this dumbass, no, it wasn't a dumbass, it was an informant, came in there. Hey, Kimmy, how you doing? He started coming to their little meetings, and they were like really informal meetings. This was not an organized thing. And he just tells them one day, "I've got access to explosives, and we should ride down to Atlanta and scope out some places we could blow up." Now, I know all you men. Now, there's 50 of you here, so there might be one or two of you here that don't know that. I know all you men are smarter enough to know this. But anytime someone comes to you and says, "I got weapons, what do you think we should do with them?" It's the FBI, okay? This is an informant. And you look the informant in the face and you tell him that he's an informant. You ask him, "Where's the wire?" He might not be wired up at that point. He might be waiting to see, what you say. But the guy who comes to you and says, I got some machine guns. We should shoot up an Antifa rally." It's an informant. You're being set up. I'm just telling you right now. Don't fall for it. As soon as they say it, you laugh at them and you say, "Oh, it's nice to meet you," because it's a compliment. You know, they recognize that you're a man's man who might think about doing something manly, and so they're targeting you for a reason. They're targeting you because you're a threat or a potential threat. So take the compliment, but don't take the bait. Take the compliment, not the bait. Slap him on the back, offer him a beer, tell him you're going to miss him because obviously he's not welcome around anymore. Kind of give him a good send off. Maybe call out to your wife, "Hey, Juanita, we're going to need us a goodbye cake because Billy Bob over here ain't going to be around no more. So we're going to give him a good send off." Treat him right. Send him out right. But don't go scope out places to shoot up with this jackass. Anywho, so this local guy got caught up in it. They actually rode down to Atlanta and they scoped out. I think they were going to blow up Spaghetti Junction in 280 over 280, or they were never going to do it. These guys were never going to do it. This was just four old hillbillies in their late 50s. They were literally in their late 50s. They were all, past middle age. They're all overweight. They're just drinking buddies. They're all a little too spun up about the state flag. And hell, you know what? They were probably just driving down there so they'd have an excuse to stop at Hooters on their way back up. These old boys probably never got to go to Hooters before. And one of them probably knew there was a Hooters down there in Buford. And on the way back up, they could stop at Hooters and no one would know. It was going to be something like that. I don't. There might not have been a Hooters in Buford back then. I don't know. But I'm serious. This is what it was. And these old boys ended up in prison. They spent 4 or 5 years in prison over some absolute bullshit. So that's the FBI. The FBI is useless. CIA, same way. Hey, CIA, you know what the CIA comes from? The CIA came out of World War II, and all the Nazi intelligence assets we rescued and brought over. Uh, just like with the scientists, I know the exact address of every Hooters in Georgia. I wouldn't say I know the exact address, but the one in South Atlanta is awful. Don't go down there. Uh, after World War II, we rescued all the Nazi scientists and brought them over here, and that's how we got NASA. At the same time, pretty much the entire Nazi intelligence apparatus switched sides at the end of the war, and just defected wholesale, and pretty much our entire CIA was Nazis. It wasn't the CIA prior to all that. It was I think it was the SSO. Was it the Special Services Office or something? It's Pride Month. Yeah, we can all apply for jobs at Hooters now. No, I'm afraid I'd probably get myself in trouble if I had a job at Hooters. The CIA is all now. OSS. Thank you, MI Prepper. Office of Strategic Services. Gentleman Warrior got it too. Just straight up Nazis. I mean, these guys went from murdering Jews. They took 2 weeks to get shipped over here, and suddenly they were American citizens in good standing. Absolute horrificness. They need to go to the CIA needs to at least because the CIA is focused outside the country. It's still bad, and they still got to go. But at least you could make the claim that. Well, anyway, I don't know. They're not armed technically. Whatever. They're still awful. But the FBI is worse. The FBI is worse. The FBI's got to go. FBI's got to go. Can't be reformed. Can't be salvaged. You don't. We don't need the FBI to keep us safe because the FBI doesn't keep us safe. The FBI is a political manipulation organization. You know what I heard? And I think this was an FBI report. I think I heard this on Crowder again. I don't know why I'm referencing Crowder so much lately, but something like they did some kind of survey of FBI computers, and 2/3 of them had child pornography on them. 2/3 of the FBI computers they checked had child porn on them. I don't know what box you put that in. I don't know how you. Now, to me, what that tells me is that yes, certainly there is a large amount, obviously, of pedophiles in the FBI who have free access to child pornography, but it tells me there's probably just as much people of there's I'm guessing at least is as used for planting evidence on their political enemies as it is for them being perverts. But look, we're going to be honest with ourselves for a minute, man. Every single one of us is capable of going somewhere dark. And the way you don't go somewhere dark is you protect your mind from certain things. Images being a very, 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 very powerful one. And if you are exposed, here, there's a need another gun. If you are exposed to images of child pornography, let's just say in the course of your job, that shit will get in your mind and it will start working on you. And you all know this. Every man within the sound of my voice right now can think of an image that is seared into his brain. Think about the very first time you saw a picture of a naked woman. You probably remember it. You probably remember the picture, and you would probably recognize that picture if you saw it. I remember the first image of a naked woman I ever saw. I remember the second image of a naked woman I ever saw. I'm not sure if I remember the third or not, but I definitely remember the first two. And they're seared into my brain. And as men, if we're not careful with the imagery that goes into our head, naked. If we're not careful with the imagery that goes into our head, it will take over and start rewiring shit. And that doesn't just, it's not necessarily just pornography, but images of violence and all kinds of stuff. Isaac says it's the Stargate SG-1 pilot episode. Well, if that was going to be your first, I love SG-1. Ungrateful Peasants is 1997 Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. We're going to start having. Go ahead, everyone. Type it up. Let's start seeing it. What was the first naked lady you ever saw? Naked lady you ever saw? My best friend growing up had found a magazine, and he'd cut it all up and hid it in a tobacco tin in the woods behind his house. Actually, his cousin had, but it was a little bit and they showed me some images in the Marines that I'm still not sure why they showed them to me, but they're, well, Anarchy Television was Bo Derek and Playboy, but they're still in there. Those images are in my head, and they'll just pop up sometimes. I won't even be like, my brain won't be anywhere near there. Commentators was the real thing, and he's not bragging. It's not like I'll be sitting there thinking about this horrific, violent picture the Marines showed me for some reason. I won't be anywhere near it, and that image will flash in my mind out of nowhere. And then of course there's this whole cascade of stuff that comes up with it. You got to be careful. And if these guys are exposing themselves to this stuff as part of their job, they're walking away with these images in their minds, and it is going to start working on you. It is. If you're not careful, it is going to veer you off into dark, terrible places. Oh, Anita wants some Playboy silver, but you ain't paying that premium though. I didn't know there was Playboy silver, but it makes sense. I don't have much premium stuff. I actually got my silver out right here. I was looking at it right before I started the live stream because I love my silver so much. But I don't have much premium stuff. I have 2 coins. I have 3. One, my very first silver piece that Pete Rambo gave me, a little name drop there. The piece that got me started, and then the first pieces I bought for myself are some, I wouldn't call them premium, but they're not the usual stuff. They're something else. I think they're called the Trivium. But other than that, all my silver is. Oh no, I do. I have a. Have I showed you guys this? If I've showed you this, I apologize. There it is. I don't know what y'all can see. Can y'all see that? If you can't see that, let's take it out of the thing. Let me see if that'll help. Oh, that might be it. It's only I think it's 2/3 of an ounce, but it's a kind of this collector's poker chip from Trump Plaza in Trump Plaza, his casino he had in Atlantic City. So I thought that was pretty cool. When I saw that, I had to buy that. Overpaid for, well, I didn't really, no, I underpaid for it, as long as you look at it as a collector's piece, because I think online they're like close to $50 or were. And I think I paid $25 for it, so. But it's pretty cool. Just because it says Trump on it. Anywho, that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. The FBI is completely corrupt. It is irredeemable. I don't care what level of the FBI you work at. I don't care what reform plan you have. I agree. This is not an original thought to me. It's Steven Crowder again. I don't know why this is such a recurring theme. I guess because he's the one who talks about this the most that I know. But we should be asking all of our elected representatives now, what is your plan to disband the FBI? Do you support disbanding the FBI? Not reforming it, not remaking it, not changing the name, disbanding it. The federal government needs to be out of law enforcement. Let me say that again. The federal government needs to be out of law enforcement. And Vivek supports abolishing the FBI. Yeah, the FBI will round all of us up after the show. Well, what inspired this, Mark, is that Isaac texted me right before we went live saying that the FBI is going after Alex Jones now. That somehow they're trying to confiscate all of the infrastructure for his show and sell it to pay off his $1 billion fine or whatever it was. And that's kind of why I was like, okay, we're talking about the FBI tonight, because the FBI wasn't directly involved in the Trump conviction. I don't know what to call it. I mean, they were behind the scenes. You'd never convince me that they weren't. But that wasn't technically an FBI investigation or anything. You can tell because there weren't a majority of informants involved. A majority of the people involved were not informants, so clearly it was not an FBI investigation. Anyone still buying Troy products? The unknown knowns by the unknown knows by Volvad. I don't know what Troy products are. Yeah, they want Alex Jones gone. They want him. They hate that man. And men, I don't know what you personally think about Alex Jones. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. If they hate him that much, there must be a reason. There must be a reason. Troy hires former FBI agents. Well, if they're former FBI agents because they quit and they don't want to have anything to do with the FBI anymore, I'm okay with that. If they're former FBI agents who are real FBI agents, then I'm not okay with that. Alex, I have actually never listened to him that much because he's exhausting. I mean, it's just it's the fire hose. He's just full blast. They hired Lon Horiuchi. Oh, Horiuchi. Was that the sniper who shot? That's the sniper from Ruby Ridge, right? And then he was also very involved at Waco, if that's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, something about Jones. They just they just hate him. Nona, hey Nona. They hate him, and I don't know why. I mean, I think he's fun. When I listen to him, the few times I listen to him, I'm like, oh, this guy's great. He's a lot of fun to listen to. But I mean, I take everything he says with a grain of salt. Not any more than I take anything everyone says with a grain of salt. But you can tell this is a guy who's a little prone to hyperbole. So as am I. That's not an indictment of his character. I'm prone to hyperbole. But you listen to what he says, and he's getting at a broader point than necessarily what is exactly his. They're turning the frogs gay. That's the big one. No, the frogs aren't actually gay, but yeah, there's environmental factors that are going on, And one of the symptoms of that those factors may be causing problems in humans is that they're causing endocrine problems in frogs. His broader point being that that the environmental factors are affecting the sex hormones of people, and one of the ways you can tell is that they're affecting the frogs. It's a it's a it's a it's a it's a valid point. It's an undeniable point. The little bit I've looked into it, it checks out. There is in fact fewer male frogs being born because of a lot of factors. One of them they think being the amount of birth control hormones being flushed down the sewer system and getting released out into the waterways. Uh, but what he said was they're turning the frogs gay. Okay, that's you run it through that filter and you come and he's conveying accurate information in a over the top sort of impactful way. There's nothing wrong with that. I like Alex Jones. I don't understand because it's so easy for normies to discount him. People the people who listen to Alex Jones are not they're not salvageable as far as the feds are concerned. The normies are never going to listen to someone like that because they're never going to be able to. You can't tell the normies that their birth control pills are harming the environment because the normies will not compromise on their birth control pills. They're not going to give up their birth control at all. I mean, and it doesn't matter what sort of facts, what sort of no, they are convinced that birth control, this is sacred. They will not compromise on it. So if you tell them that their birth control pills are turning the frogs gay, uh, they're going to do whatever they have to in their mind to discount you. So you don't have to go after an Alex Jones. He's not talking to anyone who you can sway anyway. Everyone who's listening to Alex Jones is already lost to you. Uh, oh, Roy Epps. Who's talking about Roy Epps? Anywho, so I don't understand why they hate Alex Jones so much. Now I get it. Yeah, okay. So Kimmy just pointed out he's got a lot of followers. He does have a wide reach. But like I said, those people are already unreachable. By the time you get to Alex Jones, you've already rejected the dominant narrative. Uh, what's that about Japan? Japan has far fewer unplanned pregnancies than U.S., but the pill is not commonly used there. They use mainly condoms in Japan. Uh, so I don't get it why they hate him so much. Is it just because they hate anything they can't control? Is it just because it makes them so angry that someone would resist them? I mean, I'm starting to think that's what it is. It's just a submission issue. They just want you to submit, and they don't care about anything else. You know, as long as you genuflect, as long as you show them that you're properly. That's what it is. As long as you show them you're properly afraid of them. As long as you fulfill their little need to be feared. These are all pathetic, weak, broken little people who just need to lord it over their betters. It drives them just absolutely insane that there's people out there that don't live in the same petty, fearful, uh, grasping, covetous little world that they live in, where they have to be able to lord it around the people over them at any cost. Uh, and that's probably just what it boils down to. They They just envy him. They envy Trump. They hate anything that they feel like that can stand up to them. That's sad. That is sad. That is a sad way. These are sad people. They're pathetic people. They're not people who should be pitied in any way that like that we would want to help them. They need to be destroyed. They need to be run out of public life. They need to lose all of their pensions and all of their standing in society. They need to be rejected and isolated and shunned. They need to be shunned. They need to lose all of their influence in society. If you're going to choose to be involved, they need to be canceled. Isaac, I don't know that I'm being nice about it. I'm being circumspect about it. These are public statements I'm making here. So there's just certain things, and maybe this is cowardice on my part. I don't know. I would say it's wisdom, but there's certain things obviously I'm not gonna just blurt out. Uh, but yeah, federal law enforcement, not just the agencies. We've got to personalize it. The federal law enforcement employees, functionaries, all the way from Merrick Garland at the top of the Department of Justice, all the way down to the custodial staff that sweeps the hallways, needs to be shunned. If you work for federal law enforcement in any capacity, you should not be allowed in polite society. People should not socialize with you. Oh, yeah, Ungrateful Peasant, we appreciate you, sir. Thank you. It's actually going to be a short one. I'm not going to be here much longer. I actually have to work tomorrow, which is rare. I don't normally have to work Sundays, but there you go. I'm working tomorrow. But yeah, the FBI is not only a corrupt organization, it is Supreme Galactic Commander is here. Yeah, let's stop giving the rank and file FBI agents a pass. They could resign. I agree. Not allowance in polite society. Yeah, absolutely. You don't have an excuse. I'm sorry. You don't have an excuse. Kimmy's going to drink more beers. Woohoo! It's going to be a good night in the Siegmiller house. There might be another Siegmiller baby in the morning. There ain't no gay frogs in that swamp. Oh, Isaac's pastor and wife are expecting their first baby today. Congratulations. Pass that on to us. Pass that on to them from us. That there is a broad right-wing conspiracy that wishes them all blessings and joy on this auspicious day. MI Prepper says, yesterday was, I can never remember if it's Michigan or Minnesota. Prepper says, yesterday was the 30th anniversary of getting out of the Army. I sure never thought the military and America would be where it is now. I would have thought you were crazy if you told me the future. Yeah, I had. Yeah. Wow. Yesterday was the 30th anniversary of getting out. Yeah, if you'd have told me that's what it was, military intelligence. I'm sorry. I used to think it was Michigan Prepper, and then you told me it was military intelligence. I'm sorry. I remember you telling me that now. Yeah, so I got out of the Marine Corps. I got out of the Marine Corps twice. I got out once in 1999, and I got recalled after September 11th, and I got out again in 2002, late 2002. And if you'd have told me in 2002 where we'd be 23 years later, 22 years later, I'd have laughed at you. I told you were so stupid. Yet here we are, 22 years later, and I can't even ask my sons to join the military. I can't. I mean, I wish they would. Uh, I think the training and the familiarization with their systems and us still continuing to be the warrior class is worth. I don't know. Not while the shot. Not while they were requiring the shot. Now that they're not requiring the shot, I want more information about the SC deal with the Chen Chen and the special ops ordealio. I do too, Kimmy. What's our advice for our mindsets to be going forward? Here's what I have decided, and Mark talked about it earlier. United States of America is dead. Yo, uh, we need to be. There's a few things we need to keep in mind. We can all be loyal to what was. We can all be nostalgic for what was instituted in 1776. And we can all look back with pride at the high points and learn from the low points. But we have to understand that those days are over. We don't owe, just like the GRU, the GRU, the old Soviet police, internal police uh, thing. They changed their name and became the KGB, but it was still the exact same organization. Well, just like an organization can change its name and be the same, different organizations can change their name or can keep the old name and be completely different. They can keep the name and switch out the organization. So we've kept the name and we've switched out the organization. We've got that beautiful, red, white, and blue flag. We've got all those great, glorious buildings up there in Washington D.C. and they've still got the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and all that stuff is still up there on the surface. But everything from underneath it has been swept away. We do not owe any allegiance to the people who are squatting on the institutions or are squatting underneath the canopy of the institutions that used to be the United States of America. Right? We don't owe any. I've got a whole video on this. America was named after a Italian, a humanist, or no, an Italian. His name was Amerigo Vespucci, and he was just this Italian guy. Oh, he was a secret agent. He was a secret agent for who? Who was it? I don't remember the exact story, but he was a spy. And he was also a cartographer, and he may or may not have taken one trip to America. But but that was it. That was his connection to America. And there were these two German humanists, like 100 years after his death, who just said, "Well, let's name this new continent America," and they did. Why? No one knows. There's not a good explanation for why these two German humanists got to name this whole continent America. But we don't owe any allegiance to Amerigo Vespucci. We don't owe any allegiance to these two German humanists who named this continent after Amerigo Vespucci. We owe our allegiance to ideas and to beliefs, not, not, not to names. We don't owe our allegiance to name. We don't owe our allegiance to flags. We don't owe our allegiance to buildings. If those things no longer represent the ideas, if those things no longer represent the principles and beliefs, then we never our allegiance should have never been to those things. They should have never been to the flag. It should have never been to the name. It should have never been to the building. It should have been to the principles and the ideas. And they have switched out all the principles and the ideas underneath that flag and those buildings and those names, And it's a completely different set of principles now. And we did not agree to that. It was a bait and switch. They didn't let us vote on it. We didn't have a debate. They just quietly over time changed this and changed this and changed this and changed this and changed that. And suddenly it's a whole different thing. We don't owe it. We don't owe it loyal. We're not disloyal. We're not traitors. We did not give up our right of the South will rise again. Well, wind charm, I don't know if it's that easy, but maybe something similar. Uh, comment history vanished. Huh, I wonder what up. Dude, comment history vanished. Out. Does that mean I need another gun left the chat? I don't know. Anyway, so my point, our our mindset going forward needs to be that we are ungovernable. That there are times we will have to cooperate, but every chance we have to not cooperate, we're going to try to not cooperate. Look, you don't owe this government taxes. I pay my taxes. Why do I pay my taxes? Because I don't want to go to jail. But if someone can get away with not paying their taxes, I got no problem with that. They're stealing it anyway, and they're wasting it when they get it, and then they do evil things with it. You don't owe this government money. It's not a righteous government. It's not even a legitimate government. If you read your Bible tells you what a legitimate government is, and this government is not legitimate. And we are not required to submit to an illegitimate government. Read that passage again. Read it carefully, and read 3 or 4 verses past the ones they're going to want you to read, and it tells you what kind of government God expects you to submit to. It's a government that promotes righteousness and punishes unrighteousness. That's the God ordained government. That's the one you submit to. If your government doesn't encourage or I shouldn't say even encourage, reward righteousness and punish unrighteousness, it's not a legitimate government, and you don't owe it jack shit. We have to be ungovernable as much as we can be. It's a little passive aggressive. It's like being water, when you punch water just, your hand just goes into it and it just, closes in around your hand, and you haven't hurt the water at all. We have to be ungovernable, and we have to not give any moral authority to these animals who have claimed to be in charge of us. They are animals. They are base. What's the right word? They are base animals. They do not have. I want to be careful here. They are debased. Their morals are debased. Their sentiments are debased. Their thoughts are debased. They are debased. And just because they have suits, and just because they inhabit buildings, and just because other debased people pay their paycheck, doesn't mean we owe them anything. We don't owe them anything. They're not legitimate. We do not owe them obedience. We do not owe them loyalty. We do not owe them cooperation. If they stick a gun in your face, do what you have to do to not have them pull the trigger. And then when their gun is not in your face, you go back to resisting. Anarchy television, the Lord created a certain amount of organized social control. And obviously I know you read the Old Testament, or you read the scripture, there is a certain amount of organized social control that was ordained. But it's minimal. It is absolutely minimal. And there's no jail. There's no jail in the Bible. There's no jail. There's implied that it's possible, but in the commands, there's never anywhere where you can jail someone. Not the way we think of jail. You die, you pay fines, or you're a slave until you pay off that fine. And then there's local law enforcement in Scripture, but it's very the society that God institutes in the Old Testament is a militia society. It's a militia-based society, just straight up, no doubt about it. God's society, the one He instituted first, was a militia society. He's pretty explicit about it too. It's not even like it's implied. He talks about the militia meeting 3 times a year, and what happens when you go throughout the land with your weapons on you and stuff. And he's pretty explicit that it's a militia society. That there's no organized law enforcement. Everyone's supposed to cooperate together on the law enforcement that happens. But there is a certain amount of law enforcement. Anywho, so there you go, man. I'm just going to start repeating myself now. And I do have to go to bed because supposed to be down in that shithole tomorrow by about 8:30. I won't get there till about 9:30 because I'm lazy. What's DPF say here? I find it very interesting when some FBI agents or police officers are investigating. They find out that they are wrong and begin to turn it around and awaken to what is really happening. All right, we're losing the unknown knowns. Kimmy's out. All right, so FBI, gone. We got to get rid of it. This needs to be, I need to make a list of all the political actions we need to start agitating for. One of them is the abolishment of all federal law enforcement. Another one is we need to abolish property taxes. There's a few others. Those are the 2 big ones, though. No property taxes and no federal law enforcement. But yeah, first is FBI gone. Oh, and we have to, like someone said, we got to stop making excuses for the functionaries. Hey, John Last, yeah, FBI equals Gestapo or KGB. Oh yeah, abortion and gun laws. Yeah, yeah. Try to avoid giving money to corporations that hate you. Definitely. That's why I don't have any investments. I don't have any 401k or any of that stuff, because that's giving money to people who are gonna use it to undermine my way of life. All of my money that I'm able to save goes into silver. It's so pretty and shiny. I love it so much. Yeah, property taxes go to government schools. But then property taxes are used to take away your property. Anything that keeps them, allows them to keep you from being independent, so you never own anything. What did somebody just say? Flex? Oh, flex, yeah. No, that's not the flex. You want to see the flex? Where's the flex? Here's the flex. This is my favorite piece. It's a 5-ounce arc. Where's the regular arc? I might not be able to get a regular arc out here quick enough. Oh, and this one's kind of fun. This is my Libertad. I'm not going to pronounce that right, but this is a 2-ounce. So this is Mexican. And lots of Mexican silver has weird pagan gods on it, so I don't normally buy Mexican silver. This one, I don't consider images of liberty to be, but lots of Mexican silver has actual real not abstract ideas personified, but actual pagan gods that got worshipped at some point. I know I've got regular 1 ounce arcs in here somewhere, but I don't want to have y'all sitting there while I go through all this looking for them. Oh, there's the first pieces I ever bought. Right after I made all that. Yeah, Isaac, I don't have a maple leaf yet, and I do need to get a maple leaf because I've said some insulting things about Canada lately, and some people have called me out on it. Man, there's no good way to show this. Anyway, so that's the first pieces I bought for myself. I love my silver. Someone just said something. My works at Taco Bell. She has a silver coin. Someone paid her thinking it was dollar coin or 50 cent. Oh my wow. Okay, so the unknown known says silver blanks have huge premiums and can be dang hard to sell trade. So it depends on which ones you get, so like this Britannia, when I bought these, I think I paid about $5 over spot for them. Might have been $4 over spot. And depending on where I sell them, I'll probably get $1 or $2 over spot for them. So the premiums on what you call sovereigns, now most of you know this, but we'll go over it real quick. So there's coins, there's rounds like this Libertad and this Arc and that Britannia, which are referred to as sovereigns. And these are silver coins that have never been money. Yeah, John. In fact, these are silver nickels. I try to always, every time I make a purchase, I always try to get a couple dimes or nickels. For the smaller barter. So there's the sovereigns. They look like coins. They're issued by countries, but they were never legal tender. So you got the American Silver Eagle, you got the Britannias, the Maple Leafs, the Libertad, the Arc. This is actually issued by Armenia. There's a bunch of them out there. There's the Austrian. The price of silver last corporal veteran, when I checked earlier today, was about $30. It was like $30.30 an ounce. And lots of people like to focus on those, and I think that's a really good place to stay focused. Then there's what's called generics. And these are rounds that are just minted by. Oh yeah, Isaac. I think we're going to $40 silver pretty soon. It's going to be up and down over the course of the summer. I think this is just me talking. Summer is always a little depressed for precious metals anyway. So yeah, there's going to be some fits and starts and some up and down. But what we're watching for is lower lows and higher highs. I'm sorry, higher lows and higher highs. So when I started stacking about a year and a half ago, I think I was paying $18 when I bought these two. I think spot was $18 an ounce, and here it is today. It's at $30 an ounce, and it has been up as high as $32 an ounce. So silver's volatile. You're always going to see this up and down, up and down. But it's an up and down that's yo-yoing or slinkying higher. You know how a slinky goes down? Well, this is a kind of a slinky higher. And yeah, I think $40 a silver is maybe not this summer, but maybe this winter, this next winter, sometime in the next calendar year. I think we're going to see $40 an ounce silver, and I think we're going to see $50 an ounce silver in the next couple of years. Now, here's the thing: when we start getting around $45, $50 an ounce, uh, wow, $4 a bar. See, I wish I'd been buying back then. I'm so stupid. Once we start getting around $45 an ounce, or if the gold to silver ratio gets down around 60, I will start thinking about selling my silver and not cashing out. I'm not going to sell and take the money and run to Vegas. But I will probably either roll it into gold or something else and let it sit, because I think once it starts getting around that $50 an ounce level, that's the all-time high for silver. It's going to pull back from that when it hits it. You know, so that would be a really good time, in my opinion. I'm not an expert. Please don't do anything because I said so. Not when it comes to money. Not when it comes to money. Dear God, I am broadcasting this from a double wide trailer at the bottom of a dirt road. But me personally, when I see the gold to silver ratio down around 60, or I see silver getting up near 50, I'm going to start thinking about selling. Like, I'll probably never sell this one because I love this one so much. But all my generic, just my bars and stuff, around $50 an ounce, I'll start thinking about ways to sell and then wait for that pullback, and then get back in it, you know. And either, like I said, either roll a lot of it over into gold, or just maybe hold the cash for a little while. Because I think once it hits 50, there's going to be a kind of a significant drop after that. That's the all-time high, and once it hits it, I think it's going to kind of bounce off of that for a little while, and it might be an opportunity. Mark is saying he remembers it might have gotten as high as 52. Mark, I don't remember exactly. 50 is just that easy place to. I know it hit about $50 an ounce in 1980, and I think it got back up there again in 2011, if I remember correctly. Oh, come on. But yeah, it might have been 51 or 5180 or whatever. I don't remember the exact amount. It's just 50 is easy to say. Anywho, though, I love my silver. All righty, man. We appreciate you. Unless someone's got something interesting to say, real quick. Need Another Gun says it's nice to walk down and open a bucket with pasta by the pounds. You know what, man? We opened a bucket the other day that we think might be about 10 years old. And it's full of beans we grew right here. And it has been sitting in a 5-gallon bucket with nothing else in there, no oxygen absorbers, no nothing. And that bucket has been sitting outside for maybe 5 years. It just got pulled out of where we had it stored and got set aside, and it's never got around to getting put back in storage. And those beans are fine. We could eat them. We could soak them and cook them and eat them. And they've just been sitting in a 5-gallon bucket outside for years. And they're beans we grew. Didn't even have to buy them. But yeah, that is very nice, Anita. To have some food set back and be able to just go, if the worst happened, we're not going to starve overnight, and that's where we're at. If the worst happened, now we've added a bunch of people to the family, so I probably should A wind charmer just opened a 5-gallon bucket of elbow macaroni that was 7 years old. Yo, Lance Corporal veteran, we grow corn and we grow a fair amount of corn. I am not a big fan of it for a couple of reasons. It's very resource dependent as far as it just needs a lot of water and it's very hard on the soil. And you have to really plant a lot of it in order to keep the genetics up. Uh, and I just, when it does well, it does really, really, really well. But then you got a lot of field corn because sweet corn. You have to harvest sweet corn before uh, it's ripe, really. So then it has to be able to be preserved in its this unripe state. So if you're okay with field corn, not sweet corn, but like the hard like corn you feed your animals, and that's fine. It stores really, really well. But it's corn, and it's got to be nixtamalized and all that. And I'm just not a huge fan. I really, beans. We're talking about survival garden here now. We're not talking about living well. But beans, squash, and sweet potatoes, they've just been. My rototiller will not hold an idle for more than 2 seconds, no matter what I do. It sounds like your idle jet is plugged. Uh, I just haven't been impressed with it, Lance Corporal veteran. That's just me. I live in the South. Our soil's not great, uh, and then we don't eat a lot of cornbread. Uh, so corn, we grow sweet corn and we grow popcorn, uh, but it's just not a staple crop for us anymore. Uh, yeah, beets are great to grow, but then we don't eat them. Uh, but we'll eat the hell out of sweet potatoes and we'll eat the hell out of butternut squash and we'll eat the beans, especially if they're in like a stew or a chili or something. I've never grown rhubarb. We had an asparagus patch for a while. Uh, Irish potatoes just don't do well for us. Yeah, everything grows. It's a matter of fertilizer. 100%. You're just 100% right, Lance Corporal veteran. And, so we have blueberries. We have apple trees, but they've never produced. We have a pear tree. And then, of course, we have blackberries out the ass. Uh, Tomatoes haven't done well for us in recent years either. I don't know. I don't know what happened with tomatoes, but they just stopped producing. And they're not growing when we plant them. Yeah, swampland. I guess that would grow things well. We're actually in the foothills of the Appalachians, so we're on a lot of limestone and a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. I can't. Gave up on sweet potatoes. Can't master the slips. Now you can order sweet potato slips, which we actually order the slips every year. There's been some years where we made our own, but it's just easier to order them and they're not that expensive. I think you can get 200 sweet potato slips for $60-$70 for 200 slips. Uh, and it's just worth it to be able to put them in all at once and not have to try to keep the slips alive and everything. We've had trouble with onions. Onions don't do well for us for some reason. Uh, garlic does well, and the broccoli does okay. Of course, this being the South, collards do fantastic. What collards are basically just broccoli without the flour. I mean, they have a flour, they just don't have the weird flour that we think is broccoli. Because that's what broccoli is. It's the flower right before it blooms. We've never grown eggplant. Grow wild onions like I do because I couldn't get on you to do nothing either. Oh, I couldn't get onions to do nothing either. Uh, and poor Isaac, his growing season is just beginning, and we're going into June. We could have had a crop out already, to be honest with you. Had we, if we grow Irish potatoes, we have to plant them in February, and then we would be taking them out right about now. Normal years. Now it's been a cool spring for us, so they'd probably be fine still for a while. But hey, Indiana constitutional patriots. The problem with uh, the tire towers for us is that it gets too hot. Potatoes don't, the tubers don't grow once the soil temperature gets over about 85 degrees. And of course, you do those tire towers in our heat. Those tires will be 100 degrees, and so obviously the soil inside those tires, and it's just not cool enough. It gets too hot, so those tire towers don't work for us. Yeah, my father-in-law does pretty good with carrots, Lance Corporal veteran. We don't eat enough of them. Hey, Wind Charmer, I have the Graveleys as usual. They're broken again. They're just so old, and I'm such a terrible mechanic. Uh, but yeah, I technically still use the Graveleys. I just don't have one running at the moment. And I love the Graveleys. They're fantastic. I've just got to be able to. I've got to learn how to work. I've just got to knuckle down and do it. Uh, so anywho, yeah, I've always. You know what I want? I want a BCS. Look it up. BCS. It's an Italian company. They make two-wheeled walk-behind tractors, which is basically what the Gravely is. It's like a modern tower of power. It's like a modern Gravely. It doesn't have all the cool attachments the Graveleys used to have, but it has some pretty cool attachments. Uh, and it's just a modern one. My Graveleys were all made in the '60s, so they're all 60, 70 years old now, and they're just old. They just wore out. Uh, and I'm a terrible mechanic on top of all that. So, but next weekend is get a Gravely running weekend. Uh, and I've let myself get distracted by all these other projects, but I can't do anything around here without those Gravely's. I've got to have the bush hog, and I've got to have the rotary plow. Now I do, Wind Charmer. I do have a Troy built tiller. Uh, since we're doing the combined garden with my father-in-law this year, my tiller is actually down at his place, so I don't have it up here. But I need the bush hog is what I. Uh, Isaac's been restoring some chainsaws lately. People sell them dirt cheap. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Actually, that's what I worked on this weekend. I put some. Oh, I showed that in that video. That's right. So I'm pretty pleased with it. It's coming along fairly well. Uh, my ultimate my ultimate goals for it are going to be, if I do say so myself, forgive me for being arrogant, going to be pretty cool. It's going to be pretty cool. But anywho, alrighty, man. I think we're gonna. Are you doing more pine beam test? No. Once that 9 mil blew through those pine beams, Isaac, I knew. I mean, anything is gonna go through it. Had the 9 mil. Had now the one thing I might do. Hey, Big Night Esquire. The one thing I might do is try it at range because I was doing 7 yards or 21 feet. So, so it might be interesting to see, how those pine beams do at a longer range. Will it stop 9 mil at 25 yards or 50 yards or even 100 yards? Although I've never tried to shoot a 9mm pistol at 100 yards, so I'm not even sure if I'm capable of that. Uh, and I might. Uh, I've seen the ones you can tow behind Lance Corporal Veteran, but I haven't seen the adapters. Uh, I might try 5.56 on the pine beams at 100 yards just to see. Uh, uh, but I'm pretty sure it's going to blow right through it. But we'll see. Uh, that's in the future. I'm I'm kind of out of video ideas at the moment, and I've got to sit down and come up with some because I don't want the chance. Because what happens is I'll do these spurts, and I'll come up with a couple of good ideas or ideas I like at least, and I'll do them all, and then I won't have any more ideas, and so I won't make videos for a couple of months, and then I'll do a spurt of videos for a couple of months, and it gets kind of fits and starts uh, and I never get any steady growth going. But anyway, all righty, man. We appreciate you. This has been a fun stream. We actually got up to 60 people at one point. Uh, and so that's kind of exciting. I don't remember what our high. Oh, I know our highest ever was 120, but that was a fluke. That just came. I just had a video hit one week, and it did really, 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 really well. And I guess a bunch of the people who'd watched the video tuned in for the live stream, and that was the live stream. YouTube dumped in the middle because I touched the gun in the middle of the live stream, and they deleted it and banned me for a week. Anywho, neither here nor there. We appreciate y'all. Yeah, I'm on the FBI list. Y'all start agitating. Just when you can work it into conversation, find a place. FBI needs to be abolished. If any of you talk to any elected officials, FBI needs to be abolished. It's just you don't have to like print T-shirts, but this needs to be something now that's understood and that is part of your politics. If someone is interested in your support, they have they have to be willing to abolish the FBI. And if they're not willing to abolish the FBI, then they are not. Um, you might still decide to vote for them, but they're not on your side, and uh, they're not educated on the issues that face us. All right, we appreciate everybody. I hope Wes S, if you're still here, it was good to see you, sir. Isaac, thank you as always for the moderating. Uh, he really adds to these things a lot with comments and ideas, and he keeps the conversations going and flowing, and he does some work in the background. Fortunately, you men are fairly well self-regulating, so we don't have to do a whole lot in the chat. But when there is something to be done in the chat, he's on it in a heartbeat, and we appreciate him. Men, we appreciate you. Be strong. Be vocal. Uh, be willing to be sneered at. Be willing to have stupid people roll their eyes at you, uh, and be willing to say what other people want to mock you for. If their only response to you is like, well, sneering. If the only response they have to what you say is sneering, it means you're right, or at least you've put more thought into this than they have. Because if all they can do is sneer at you, then they don't have a response. And if they're sneering and if they're mocking, and if they're just being sarcastic little shits, it's a compliment. So do what you can to be complimented. Make sure they're sneering at you a lot, because what they want is for us all to be quiet because they know they're wrong and they know that we know that they're wrong, and they're just trying to bluff their way through. Yes, when they call you an isterophobe, you won. You won because they're just trying to deperson you. They're trying to dehumanize you and just, well, this person's so awful that nothing they say matters because they're an ist or a phobe. We're winning. Believe it or not, we're winning. We appreciate you, man. Have a good night.